going to try to make some homemade scratch chicken and dumplings today. When I say I'm going to try meaning because I have a 4-year-old little grandson running around the house. We'll get it done, but we may have to pause a little bit here and there. We'll get the job done. So, I started getting some things done, prepared ahead of time, and I kind of got a little ahead of myself and forgot to turn the camera on and show what I was doing. So I'm going to backtrack and show what I've done so far, and then we'll keep on with the recipe, okay? So, what I've done so far is I've got my stock back here on heating up, trying to get it ready to go. I've got approximately about 3 cups of flour in this plain all-purpose flour in a bowl. I'll sometimes go from 2.5 to 3 cups, just depending on how big of a batch I want to make. This is kind of what I would call my warm batch recipe. Sometimes when I make if I make a double stock batch, I make twice this recipe and I'll double it. But today I'm going to make just one batch. So it's plain all-purpose flour. And what I did put in the flour before the camera was turned on, I kind of get pepper and I kind of shake it around my bowl. I get garlic powder and I shake it in my bowl, and I get a little bit of salt and sprinkle it in there. Because you gotta salt your flour, you gotta salt your dumplings as you're making it in your batter. Reason being, and everybody does it different. This is just how I do it. Because if you don't salt it in your dumplings as well as salt your broth, you kind of get a bland flavor. You might get your broth seasoned, but your dumplings may not have enough flavor. So I like to season in the batter as well as my broth. This is how I do it. And I'll start a little bit at a time. So I already seasoned the flour a little bit, and I got a little bit of flour over here set to the side that I use when I roll it out. I did that because I took my bag off my table, because last time I did something with my flour bag sitting out, little birdie told me, I better not do that because I can't have my brand name showing. So, oh well. Sometimes we've all told what we use. I used to use Martha White. Still do on occasion if my store doesn't have White Lily. But recently, in our area, White Lily has all of a sudden started being shown up and sold in those stores, which is pretty cool. So anyway, I use those 2 brands simply because the same company makes them. I've said that before in some other videos, and both low protein powders. So, with that being said, on to the next ingredient that we do. I got about approximately a heaping or half a cup of shortening, solid shortening. This is whatever shortening you like to use your best. I happen to use Crisco, but I guess if you want to use whatever the brand you like, you can. And the other thing I use that we'll wait to put in there in a minute is I have in here, this little bowl here, about a cup of sweet milk with about a tablespoon and a half of lemon juice, and I did that early on to let it sit so it can turn in and stir it. It will turn into buttermilk if you're out of buttermilk. And as it is, I don't have any buttermilk in my fridge today, so we are using the sweet milk with lemon juice in there. It's a good buttermilk substitute. So, now, what we'll do here, shorten out the finger. Everybody does theirs different. I like to use a pastry cutter in my flour with a shortening. I do the same thing when I do my biscuits. I use this pastry cutter and I work it in there bit by bit. But that's how I do it. Some people are comfortable doing it with their hands. Everybody's different in how they were taught to do it or how they're comfortable in doing it. This is just how I do mine with the pastry cutter. Now you can use 2 forks and work your shortening into your flour. You can use your hand as well, however it's easiest for you to do. And what we're doing, with the consistency we want to get is approximately like a little cornmeal consistency. You want to get that lard shortening in there, worked in there, crumbled in that, mixed with that flour really well. So there's not even big clumps of shortening remaining. I scrape around this bowl really well. There's no clumps of flour that have not been worked into that lard. Get really good and well incorporated in there. And one of the tricks I'll let you know while I'm doing this. It's not really a trick, but it's something I learned as I was cooking and growing up through the years. As I said, is I used to use still frozen flour. I couldn't figure out why my dumplings would puff up. Figured out how to use all-purpose flour, and they won't puff up that way. So now this is all mixed together. The flour is all incorporated in here. We'll put the buttermilk in there, okay? Try this again. So, now, the next step is to add in our milk. Put the whole thing in there. Get it all stirred up. Give me a spoon instead of a whisk. Let me find one here real quick. Alrighty. It makes things a little bit easier when you have all the right tools. It's pretty clumpy. I could probably use a little bit more milk, and I've already put a little too much flour for this amount of milk. We all like things a little different. I'll try working in the bowl. I may get by on not getting more milk. Because when it comes to dumpling batter, you don't want it as wet as you would a biscuit batter. You want it a little bit firmer and drier of a batter, because if it's wet, it's going to stick to your table, your butcher block as you roll it out. So you can't have like a wet dough. So let's get it good and mixed up. We're back again. While I was away, I put just literally about a smidge, about maybe a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of milk in here. It's just a little bit too dry, but not much at all. Now, I'm going to stick a little flour here on the butcher block. I'm going to roll this batter out onto it. I'm going to work this batter up. A little bit on top of it. You're going to need this batter a little bit more than you would probably your biscuit batter. Like I say, you want it to be worked in, you want it to be good and firm. And there's no amount of how many times you do what. It's by feel. Because you want it to be firm. And you don't want it to be sticking or wet to your hands or to the butcher block. Especially when you roll it out. So that's why you kind of get a good firmness for it. You see, if you were doing biscuits, it would be a lot softer because you want to be soft and fluffy biscuits. But dumplings you want to be good firmness. More, getting to feel about right, getting pretty close, just by feel. It's good and firm, it's not real wet. You're going to hear a little one, I'm sure, in the background, that's alright. That's what you do when you're mom and grandma, taking care of a family. You stop and start to cook. Come back again. And then the job comes first. Always. You pull some of this apart. Set this aside. We're going to try to roll some of this out. I don't have a great big roller. I have a small one. That's just fine. It'll work. What I do when I cut them up, I cut them up in 2 batches. I put them all in here when I cut them up, and then I just can roll it out. And if I have them all rolled out and cut it one time, then I put them in my broth. Some people are able to get things rolled out. I like them to cook all at the same time, the same way. So I like to get all mine cut up, rolled out and cut up at the same time. Because that will cook evenly. Because the way my life goes, things get interrupted real easy. If I have the first little batch in there, it might be a while I get the second batch and they won't be cooking evenly. So I make sure all mine's cut up before I put them in my broth. Or stock, or everybody calls it a little different. It really is a difference. It depends on just how rich it is. I make a really good rich stock. Some people might call it a bone broth. But you want, when you get your batter, you want to roll it out really, really thin. Now, I used to have a bottle I would use in place of a big rolling pin, and I've misplaced that thing somewhere. But even with the bottle that I used to use, I still had the label on there, and I wouldn't want the label showing up in the video. Keep rolling this out until I can get it really good and thin. The thinness that I like. The batter's not sticking at all to the borders is what you want. You don't want it sticking. That means the batter's dry enough. It's not a wet batter. Everybody likes their dumplings a certain thickness. Some real paper thin, some about 1/8 of an inch. I don't like mine really thick. I'll show you what I use to cut my dumplings. For years now, I've always used a pizza cutter. I've either had this single roller pizza cutter, but I've also got this double roller pizza cutter, and it's what I have today available at the top of my drawer. I just cut them the thickness that I want them. Nothing uniform about them, just good old home style dumplings cut. Nothing fancy. Get them all cut up. And I'll get them put on my pan. And then we'll roll out the second batch. Show you how thick they are. See how thin those are? See? Yes, you hear a little one in the background. So I'm gonna put all these on this pan over here. And I'm gonna roll out the second batch over here of these dumplings. And then we're going to put our broth all at the same time. These from the center are just a little bit too thick. I don't like them that thickness, so roll those a little bit thinner. That one's a little bit too wide. That's what I'm supposed to roll out. Alrighty. These three need to be a little bit thinner. There we go. That's about right. Mess them up. You have to forgive the little one in the background. We're gonna get the other batch rolled out, and we'll go to the next stage. All right. I just about got this second batch rolled out. There's a little bit more to go. Always roll from the center, because that's where it's going to be its thickest. Make sure you get it thin in the center as well. You know, keep on rolling until you get the thickness that you want. About an 1/8 inch. Got a good approximate guess. It's just by eye and by feel. Honest to goodness. You don't want it too thick, because you know, I'll go a few. I cut up in the center. They're probably about 1/4 inch, maybe, thickness. It's just really too thick of a dumpling. You don't want your dumplings to be tough. You want them to be good and tender. If you get them too thick, they'll be tough for you. So just keep on going from the center out. Always making sure that center of the dumpling that you're rolling out is good and thin. It's not sticking. Feels good and thin to me. Then we'll cut them up with our pizza cutter. And yes, the little one is still noisy in the background. That's alright. Because you know what? That's the joys of grandkids. It really is. On the pan here. Or cooking with family. And I always have a quiet house. And every once in a while, you may hear his little voice in the background in my videos. It's just part of it at my house. I won't probably put him on camera. But we'll hear him out. They need to be a little bit thinner since I'm going to cut. Roll them out there. Oops. See, that center was just a little too thick for me. I thought I had it thin enough in the center until I cut them. Roll them out a little bit thinner. It's not that hard. Kind of get distracted when you get to doing things. Just take your time until you get the right thickness. Yeah, alright. Let's pull them apart. Need a little bit more. sure you get them thin enough. Did things always turn out perfect? Nope. It's called home cooking. That's how you know it's not from a factory. Good old scratch cooking. Because you're going to be able to tell it's good old scratch cooking. But it's made with love. Maybe someone who has put their time and patience into making sure it tastes just right for their family. So, be alright. I don't always have to go back and do this. Like I said, I'm a little distracted by the little one in the middle room. Got a room in there. That's alright. Alright. I got them all the thickness that I want. I'll get them all cut in half. Like I say, they do not have to be any kind of shape or particular size. Because it's all going to go in a bowl and be eaten, and it's not going to matter if it's some kind of fancy style size. So we'll come back here in a minute and clean this mess up. I'll let you watch me put them in the stock pot, okay? We're gonna get these dumplings now into this broth over here, alright? Now I'll show you in just a minute when I get all this put in there. Actually, I'm gonna do one more thing first. Okay? I have my bag of chicken meat when I made my chicken stock. See, I made homemade stock 2 days ago. I have a video on that y'all can watch too. That's all process I've been making my homemade chicken stock. So this is one of the bags of meat, chicken meat that I made from that chicken stock. Some people put their chicken meat in the broth before they put the dumplings. Some put it in there afterwards. I like to put mine in there. I've done it both ways. In the beginning, if I can think about it, remember, I think some of the reasons they don't want to do it, sometimes I think maybe it might take up too much space in the broth. But if you have enough broth in there, you don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to put meat in there first. Put it all in there. Get it stirred up in there. That broth is good and hot. And it's in a rolling boil. There's plenty of broth in here for all this right here. Now, we'll let that come back up to a rolling bowl. Won't take but a minute to do that since I put some cold chicken in there, so it stopped that boiling just for a little bit. It won't take long. But this is what I would call like a one batch dumpling. And the pot's only about a third full of broth. It's not that full. Now if I do my double batch, I have my broth probably about up to here when I do my double batch. I usually make 2 pans like this sometimes. I'm making for a bigger crowd. But this is like a one batch for me. And you can feed a handful of meals out of it. Sometimes I might put it in a bowl and have it for later, or give it to the family, or whoever I do. However I do. Alright, now it's back up to boiling again, and I'll show you directly as soon as I get it all in there what it looks like. So get this all put in there. And you want to drop your dumplings in the area where it's bubbling and rolling in the center, okay? So it's as an active moving broth. And to keep the dumplings from sticking together, if you put it in an area where it's not moving a whole lot, they tend to kind of just float to the bottom and stick. But I have found if I put them in the center, where it's good and rolling bubbly, they don't stick together very easily that way. Logs in there. Now this broth was seasoned really well when I made it. So I don't really want to over season it. Over salt it, I should say. I'll taste it up here in a minute and see if I feel it needs a little bit more maybe. While this is all cooking, I might add just a little bit more salt in it possibly. Or a little pepper. Like I did on my dumpling batter. I put salt and pepper and garlic powder in my stock pot, in my broth. I'm making broth as well. So it's already had those things in it when I seasoned it and cooked it. So since it's heated up, I'll taste it and see if I feel it needs some more. Get this all in there. And I'll gently get them kind of stirred. You gently stir them when you put them in there. You don't want to stir them really hard or fast because you don't want to break them up and turn to mush. You just kind of gently stir them. I stir like from the bottom into the edges when I stir mine. This is a big pot. It's a little bit hard to show you the way I stir it compared to it being a big pot. But maybe I'll hold the camera by hand when it's out of my hands here. And I'll try to show you that way. Smells good, I know that. That broth, that chicken. This is going to be good, good. I haven't made dumplings in a while. I was getting hungry for it. Now, you bring my camera over. Here we go. We're going to show you what I'm talking about. When I stir my pot, let me get you over my pot here a little bit. It's a little hard to do. Can I find? There we go. Can you see me? I go around the edges. I don't know if you can see that. I go around the edges, okay? And I kind of cut through like a crisscross. I don't stir hard. Just kind of loosen them up. I don't want them sticking together. I want them kind of floating in that broth, but they're not getting clumped up in a big old circle or anything, okay? All right. So what I'm going to do, sit you back over here on my stand, is I'll just kind of make sure they're not sticking. I always start from the bottom, around the edges, kind of do a little crisscross and make sure they're not sticking together. I check on them every so often for a few minutes. And I let them cook for about, gosh, I really don't even time it. I just kind of see how they look and taste them and see and test them out. But it shouldn't take long, maybe 10, 15 minutes. But I'll time it from whenever I put them in here and when they get done. And I'll let you know how long it took them to cook. We'll come back here and we'll plate some up in a bowl and I'll see what they look like and we'll taste them. All right? Okay. See you in a little bit. We're going to dish these things up and see how they taste. They look and smell absolutely amazing, y'all. I don't look far away from the camera. I'll get back a little close to you. As soon as I get a plate to shut for myself. Here's my plate. I'll get me some broth. That juice is one of the best parts about it. Turn this off. Now, I just add a little touch more always to my plate. Don't judge me. I'm a salt person. But now while I was back, while it was cooking, I told you, be sure and taste your broth during the cooking process. And be sure you get your broth seasoned to your taste of how you like your salt, your pepper, or your garlic powder if you want to choose to put garlic powder. Because if your broth is seasoned to your taste, then your dumplings and your broth's going to taste well when it's done. If your broth isn't seasoned to your taste, it's going to be bland. So I did have to add more salt and pepper and garlic powder to my broth as it was cooking, as I tasted until I got the right taste the way I liked it. So now I got some chicken meat in here. I don't know if you can really see it or not. I'll bring it to you. Hold on a minute. See there? See how good it looks? That golden broth and dumplings. They're piping hot though, y'all. Give me a dumpling. See that meat? See how hot that is? Gonna burn my tongue on that thing. Mmm. Mm-hmm. Winner. Absolutely winner. Now that's some good old Southern cooking. So y'all, I hope you try it. I hope you enjoy them. If you do, let me know how they turn out for you, okay? So, one more meal in the books for me. So y'all enjoy it. Until the next video, y'all take care now. Night.